All right. Good. I opened my eyes and I saw I'm stuck. And so you're in the exact right spot. I promise you, you're in the right spot. And if you have any, we're not doing comments right now, but you can still forward to a friend. You can still let somebody know that we're here. If you didn't know we do this, we do, and we're just getting started. We're going to give you a little bit of background information on Nehemiah because this is our third week. However, this message tonight will stand on its own 2 feet. So it's, while it's related to Nehemiah, it's in the book of Nehemiah. We are going in a different direction tonight. And so don't feel like you have to have the last 2 weeks under your belt before you receive tonight. So if you want to forward this over to a friend, this is the time. If you want to go grab your Bibles and you want to grab a notebook, I am going to be giving a lot of word tonight, and you may be a note taker. However, if you're a note taker, but you also just want to listen and receive, and you don't want to have to keep up with notes, then I will do that for you. And here's how. You can sign up for my newsletter. It's completely free. You don't have to do it right now. I'll give you an opportunity right afterwards. In the bio, you're going to see a little link tree area. And when you click on that link tree, it's going to show you a piece that, like a button that says newsletter work in progress partner. If you click on that, it will allow you to sign up for a newsletter, which again is completely free. But what it allows you is this. Number one, I send you a free Bible study because that's what we do around here. We go deeper in the word. We get unstuck for those that say I'm stuck. We get unstuck. We get unslumped. We find hope where we need hope, and the only place to truly find hope is in Jesus. And so we give you a free Bible study. But not only that, on Sundays when we do these sermons, on Monday, you're going to receive my notes. You're going to receive a Bible study from my notes. And I've got, I don't know, probably 25 pages worth of notes tonight. Tonight, before I go to sleep, I'm going to make a Bible study for you out of my notes. I'm going to send it to you for free so that you can take this word and you can go even deeper. If you want to listen to it again, or if you want to just listen tonight without taking notes, then don't feel like, you're going to miss anything, because I'm going to send it to you anyways. So tomorrow you will get a link to the sermon, and then you will get a link to a PDF, which you are welcome to download and use it with a group of friends. You can do whatever you want with a Bible study. You can do it. You can forward it to a friend. You can do it with a group of people. And however I can serve, that's what it's about. And so I can send that to you tomorrow if you don't want to take notes tonight. Let me straighten out my chair because I'm going to feel lopsided the entire time I speak. Okay, we're going to get started. We're going to the book of Nehemiah. If you don't know where the book of Nehemiah is, it is in the Old Testament. Look for Ezra and you'll see Nehemiah, and I believe right after it. And we've been in this book for 3 weeks, which is not common to me. I think I might have done a 2-parter once before, but tonight this is a 3-parter. And the reason is the last 2 weeks we've been talking about one portion. Tonight we're going to relate it to the people in your life, the struggles in your life, and the challenges that come when you start rolling up your sleeves and getting to work on the things that God's called you to. It's a brand new year. I know that many of you are starting new things. I don't know. It is the 11th, it's the 11th day of January. So I don't know if you've already fallen off some of your promises. I don't know if you've already made some resolution type things, whatever you want to call them, and you've already fallen off. It's okay, because we're going to talk about getting back on the horse, or how is it that you continue to build the life that you want, and more importantly, the life that God designed you to live. And so many of you have been hit by tragedy, and you have been totally taken off of your game because something happened and it was not what you were expecting. It's not what you were wanting. You've even been mad at God. You've even thrown your fist up at God, and you're, as somebody said, you're stuck. So tonight we're going to give you some backstory on Nehemiah so that you know where we're at. If you don't know who he is, Nehemiah was basically a Jewish man living during a time when God's people had experienced massive loss. Long before Nehemiah, though, the Babylonians had conquered Jerusalem. They destroyed the city walls. They burned the gates with fire. And God's people were basically taken into exile to Babylon. So all of God's people were, basically displaced and living in a foreign country under bondage, under slavery. Years later, the Persian Empire overtook Babylon. And so then under the Persian rule, some of the Jewish people, around about 50,000 of them, were allowed to start returning back to Jerusalem in waves. And so what we find out is that they came home and they did what I think I would hope most of us would do, and that is everything's tore down in our lives. We just came back home. We haven't been here, and our lives have been a mess. And where do we begin to rebuild? And so where they began to rebuild was the temple. They actually went in and they immediately began rebuilding the temple. They knew that their spiritual life was of the utmost importance, and they needed a place to worship. So they started there. It took them decades to build this temple so that they had a place to worship. But the city walls were still in ruins. And city walls back then, if you understand, we don't have city walls today. But what we know is that they were not only for protection, but they were for safety. It gave us a sense of safety. If you're inside the city walls, if there's a gate and there's one way into the city, and that is all fortified, then you go to bed at night feeling safe. You have the ability to worship and to live life and to build homes and to have children and not have the fear of someone just coming in and taking over. Now, yes, the Babylonians already had taken over. I'm talking about just the day-to-day thieves coming in, the day-to-day issues that come from having a wide open gate and no walls. So they were able to worship, but they were not able to live in peace. And so this is why I've been going here the last couple of weeks, because I think that many of us, we've done our part in the last couple of weeks, maybe the last couple months or the last year since we've been on this live, to put the temple in place, so to speak, to make spiritual life the center of your life. But what we don't understand is that God not only calls us to have worship, but he also wants us to have walls, because those walls give structure. Those walls give protection for the thing that we're growing in worship. So if you're worshiping and you're gaining peace, if you're worshiping and you're gaining a vision for your future, but then you walk out of the temple and you go to live life, but at the same time, whatever peace you got at the temple is not going to remain because you know you're not safe. Does that make sense? So you can worship all day long, but if you don't have structure for your life, then you're letting things in to steal away the very peace that you just got at the temple. Does that make sense? So he cares about your worship, but he also cares about your walls. And for many of us, we don't have walls. We don't have walls that are strong, where we can build a life on. We let people in. We let people have access to us. Emotionally, we have no walls. We have no boundaries. We let things in to steal away our peace. Financially, we don't have walls. We're in ruins, and we can have peace at the temple. We can worship God, but then we go back to our finances, and then we're stressed out and we're anxious and we can't function. Maybe our families are in disarray. Maybe our what else did we do? Oh, we did our time. Oh my gosh, we talked about time walls and how if we don't have time walls, our days just never end. There's no beginning, there's never an end, and our work spills over into it. We never have peace because we don't have any structure around our days. And God desires for us to have a day of rest, and many of us don't. Our days run together, we have no peace, and it would basically be like building a home that is beautiful. You decked it out, all the rooms are gorgeous, and then you put no windows in it and you put no door on it. How would you sleep at night? You got a beautiful home. You might have peace in the home, wanting to have peace in the home, but with no doors and with no windows, you're not having much peace. And so that's what was going on there in Jerusalem, is that the people came and they established back their worship, but they did not have walls and they had no structure. So we find out that Nehemiah himself was not living in Jerusalem, but he was the cupbearer to the Persian king. Okay, so remember, it was the Persian king that allowed the Jews to go back home. So he was the cupbearer to that Persian king. It was a very trusted role. He was very close to the king. He was part of his inner circle. And one day, Nehemiah's brother came from Jerusalem, and he gave him a report of what's going on back home, so to speak. And basically what he told him was this, that the survivors who are left from captivity, they're back in their province, but they're in great distress. They're in reproach. The wall of Jerusalem has been broken down and the gates are burned with fire. And what we find out is that, yes, they were survivors. Yes, they returned. Yes, they were back in the land and worshiping. Yes, they were spiritually active, but they were still living without peace, with constant pressure, with ongoing stress, never feeling settled, always bracing for something to go wrong. They loved God, but they were anxious. They were worshiping, but they were exhausted. They were believing, but they were overwhelmed. Does that sound like a lot like us? And so my whole aim in this entire message, in these messages, has been to get us to understand, why is it that we're worshiping? Why is it that we're seeking God, many of us for the very first time ever? And yet we still have this constant pressure, this ongoing stress. We don't feel settled. We're always bracing for something to go wrong. We love God and we're trying desperately to build our relationship, but we're always in anxiety. We always feel overwhelmed. We always feel exhausted. And so if this is for you, then you got to go back and listen to last week's message, last Sunday's message, and even the Sunday before that, as well as this one. All right. So this is where we're at right now, is that Nehemiah basically gets tapped by God to go and rebuild those walls. Now, mind you, he is in Persia. He's the cupbearer to the Persian king. So he can't just pick up and go to Jerusalem and start building walls. So he's got to have the favor of God upon his life, has to come to him, has to speak basically to the king to get him to say, yes, you're off of work. Go do what you need to do, however long it takes. You're released from Persia and you can go back to Jerusalem and do what you need to do. Clearly, it was going to take, if it took the temple decades to rebuild, of course, that king to let him off of work and to let him out of Persia to go back home, I would imagine he was giving him the out for a while. It didn't take a while, though. We're going to find out about that in just a second. So while last week we talked about the walls, we talked about the emotional walls, the relational walls, the spiritual walls, the financial walls, the physical career walls, and the time walls, these walls represent protection and strength and rebuild, right? We're rebuilding those things. Everyone was ordered to rebuild the walls in front of their own house. They didn't have to rebuild the entire wall of the city. They rebuilt the wall in front of their own house, which tells us that if we will do our part, if we will focus on what's right in front of us, if we will focus on our own relationships, our own spiritual life, our own physical, emotional health, our time walls, all of those things, if we're focusing on the thing that is right in front of us, then that's all we need to succeed. That's all we need to succeed. And so what's amazing about this is it took only 52 days to rebuild the entire wall. Why? Because everyone was just doing their part. They weren't being overwhelmed. They were doing only what was in front of them. God cares about walls, but he cares and worship. He cares about us seeking God, but he also wants structure. So here we go. We're going to launch into this because this man right here, he goes over, he begins to rebuild the walls. He rallies up the people, gets them together and says, we're going to rebuild these walls. We're in ruins and we're going to rebuild these walls. Everybody got behind him and they began this massive rebuilding of the Jerusalem walls, of the city walls. But he was standing in the middle of enemies, of mockers, of distractions and spiritual warfare. Many of you have said to me, ever since I got saved, or ever since I said yes to Jesus, my life has been crazy, or there's been a lot of warfare, or there's a lot of pushback, or there's a lot of it's not easy. I'm hearing a lot of that. It's not easy. And so we're going to talk about that tonight because many of you are in that same place where you have said, I'm done with the old me. I'm done with the chaos. I'm done repeating these cycles in my life, because many of you have had cycles in your life that have been very destructive, and yet we still keep them around. And I get that. I completely get that. Many of you have said, listen, I'm ready to build a new life in Christ. The old is gone. I want something new. I'm drawing a line in the sand. And yet at the same time, it's not easy. And I get it. You're in that place right now where rebuilding begins. You're rebuilding your identity. Many of you are rebuilding your identity after massive loss in your life. I lost my husband to COVID 4 years ago. If you don't know that, if you're brand new with us, there's almost 400 people in here, and I want you to know a little bit about me. And that is that I've had to rebuild my life. I've had to rebuild. I'll be 51 next month. And when I was 46, my husband died of COVID. And We were pastors at the time. We had been in ministry full time for 25 years, 2 children at home. They had just empty nested. So the same year that my husband died, my children empty nested. We were pastoring a church at the time. We ended up 6 months after that closing the doors to the church. I lost my church family, my support, my staff, my income, my ministry, as well as my best friend. And then of course, empty nesting my children. So my life went from very full to very empty very, very quickly. I found myself literally standing in the middle of my home, in a home that was once just constant, happy chaos of children running around and their friends over and spending the night and in and out with all the things that they had to do with my husband and the church and the ministry that we had and the traveling that we also did for ministry as well as pastoring. And we went from all of that to nothing. And I remember just standing in the middle of my house, and it was like the silence was deafening. And everything that I had drawn joy from. And I'm going to say even that I had put my identity in, because I know that's not what we're, quote, supposed to do. But it's not until those things are gone that you realize how much you depend on them. It's not until they're not there anymore that you realize, wow, how much of myself was in that. And so many of us are rebuilding your identity. Many of us are rebuilding our lives. Many of us are rebuilding habits, trying to put better habits in place so that it actually helps us in life, because right habits don't actually take away anything from us. I mean, I know that discipline really is not fun, but discipline actually brings us freedom. Because when we're disciplined and when we have good habits, then we know there's the structure that we need to flourish. There's that sense of confidence that comes in, because confidence is built by keeping promises to ourselves. When we are disciplined and we're doing the things that we know to do, we have freedom from the guilt. We have freedom from shame. We have freedom from that voice on the inside of us telling us that we're a loser. We're not going to go anywhere. This is exactly, I hate myself. I want to be different. There comes freedom from putting our lives in order. Some of us are rebuilding boundaries. We haven't had any. We didn't put any in place, and you just let people run all over you. You let people take from you. You were more like a doormat rather than, I think in the Christian realm, we get really confused between grace and being a doormat. Yes, Jesus desires for us to operate with grace, but he never called us to be a doormat. And for many of you, your wake-up call this past year, this past couple of months has been, I need boundaries on my life. I need to learn how to have hard conversations, because keeping hard conversations doesn't preserve peace. It just creates chaos on the inside of me. And so many of you are rebuilding boundaries. You're finding your peace again. You're putting structure to support your healed life. You're healing, and you need support for your healed life. Peace will not stay where there's no walls, guys. Growth won't last where there's no structure, period. And God is calling us to rebuild the walls. He's calling us to keep the enemy out. He's calling us to get healed within those walls. And he's calling us to rebuild walls so that joy is sustainable, not temporary. Because again, you can go to the temple and worship, but then you come out, and whatever peace, whatever joy you had on the inside, you're coming back to chaos. And eventually it'll be so frustrating, and you'll wonder what's wrong with God. Why isn't he showing up? Or you'll say, what's wrong with me? Why am I not praying right? Why am I not living right? I must not be doing something right. Many of you have asked that question. What am I doing wrong that ever since I came to the Lord, I still don't have peace? Even though he's the Prince of Peace, why do I have no peace? So we're starting fresh. Some of us are starting over. Some of us are starting again for the 10th time, and that's okay. And when I'm laughing with you, I am laughing with you, because trust me, there are so many times that I know what it is to say, God, this is what I'm going to do now. And then before I know it, I've slipped out, and I'm having to recommit all over again. We're going to get some answers tonight. All right. So there are 3 things that we're bringing up tonight. And the first thing is that we are called to construct. We are called to construct. We are called to build something. Then we're going to find out that there are some things that get in our way, and those are obstructions. We're going to talk about obstructions tonight. We're going to talk about destructions tonight, which are the things that tear us down. Even when we're building, we're being torn down. We've got to see where the enemy's getting into the camp. We've got to see what's tearing us down. We got to see what's getting in our way. Because if we can see it, we can move it. If we can see it, then we can understand that it's not necessarily us, that we're not necessarily messing up, that it is not that we're not good enough or that God doesn't love us. All of those things that the enemy places in our mind, I want you to know that this walking with Jesus is supposed to be a joy. It's supposed to be something that brings us life, not brings us another thing to do perfectly. And if you're walking with the Lord and it is more of a drudgery and a duty than it is a desire, then I want you to really, really receive and stay with us in this community, because I know that God wants us to love him and to serve him, but to do it in such a way that it's life-giving, that it brings us hope. Not just one more place where we have to be perfect. That is not God's desire. He does not expect us to be perfect. He sent us perfection in the form of Jesus so that he could die in our place so that we wouldn't have to kill ourselves trying to be enough. And I want you to get this tonight. We're going to learn how to build, how to stand, and how to protect God's work that he's doing in us, because he is doing a work in you. He is doing a work in you. Philippians 1:6 says he promises to carry on to completion that which he began in you. You are not screwing up. You are not enough. You are not doing it wrong. There are obstructions, there are destructionists around you, and we're going to learn what to do with them, okay? So what we know is this, that construction begins with a burden, okay? And I want to shift something in you, because what we know in Nehemiah 1:3 verses 3 and 4, we find out that Nehemiah's brother comes and this is what he reports back, right? That the walls are down. When Nehemiah heard these things, he sat down and he wept. For some days he mourned and he fasted and he prayed before the God of heaven. I want you to hear that. He saw that there was an issue. He was burdened by it. He didn't even live there, guys. He didn't even live in Jerusalem. And he had a burden, such a burden that it says that for some days he mourned and fasted. Do you know that from the time that he began praying about the walls and he was burdened for it, to the time that the king, his king, who he was a cupbearer for, gave him permission to go to his homeland and to rebuild, it was 4 months. 4 months. It wasn't like overnight. It wasn't 4 days. It was 4 months that he was on his face before God, crying out and receiving the burden that came from God. Nehemiah did not start with motivation. He started with a broken heart and a burden. If you have a broken heart and a burden right now, you're exactly where you need to be. Because before he could rebuild the wall, he had to feel the weight of brokenness. Many of you wouldn't change if something didn't change. And we know that unless something changes, then nothing changes, right? When nothing changes, nothing changes. So for some of us, if we're broken down, if we're burdened right now, we might feel like we're a million miles from where we need to be, but you're actually exactly where you need to be. And here's why. Because most of us don't make changes unless we have to. Most of us need that burden. We need that brokenness, but we need to sit down like he did. We need to weep. We need to pray. And the brokenness is what moved him before it ever mobilized him. It moved him to begin praying and to begin asking God, okay, what do you want me to do? This matters because some of you are burdened by a broken relationship. Some of you are broken by a sense of identity is now gone. I get that one big time. Some of you are broken by a financial situation, or you have no peace in your home, or you have grief or loss or chaos or instability. You are broken by that. And I'm telling you right now that that's from God. The burden is from God. God didn't do it. God didn't take things from you. He didn't hurt you or harm you. We live in a broken world. We live in a fallen world. We live with people who are broken and they break us. Many of the things that we're walking through right now are the result of either our choices or somebody else's choices. And I want you to know that God is not a God that is looking down, burdening us and hurting us. He is the God that when we are burdened and hurt, he is there with us. Scripture tells us in the book of James that all good things come down from the Father of heavenly lights, that all good things come from him. And that John 10:10 says that Satan is is the one who brings bad. He is the one who comes to kill and steal and destroy. But I want you to understand that this burden that you have, while you hate it, I'm sure, while it sucks a lot, I get it. And if that word bothers you, there's a whole lot of other things you should be bothered by other than that word. Trust me. We get so caught up in some of the dumbest things. And I want you to focus on the fact that if you have a burden, God wants you to have that burden, not because he wants it to weigh you down, not because he wants you to hurt, but because he wants you to see that you need him and that he wants to use you greatly. You didn't choose the burden, but maybe that burden is choosing you. Because today, I'm going to tell you right now, I began a fast this morning, and the reason why I'm saying it, and you're going to say, well, when you fast, you're not supposed to tell anybody. No, you're not supposed to whine about it and complain about it and say, oh, I've got a headache, I'm sick. No, I'm fasting because I am burdened by something that is so heavy that I don't have control over it. I don't have control over it. It hurts my heart. I can't do anything about it. And if it keeps on, it's painful. And I don't know what else to do other than to give it to God. And so I began fasting because it's not about me. It's about somebody else in my life. And I'm fasting so that that yoke of bondage is broken off of them, because it hurts my heart to see somebody I love hurting. And so I started a fast because I was burdened. But here I want you to see something. I'm not mad about it that I have to pray and fast for somebody else. I received that burden and I said, thank you, Lord, that I get to partner with you to fix that. You want me burdened and praying for it because the people who should be burdened and praying for it aren't. They're not doing anything about it. They're not showing up. They're okay being where they're at, and it's not where God wants them. I know this. It's not okay with God. And so I get the honor of being tapped by God to be burdened enough to where I'm going to do something about it. I can't change it, but I can pray and I can ask God, how can you use me? What do you want to do in me? Perhaps instead of being worried or upset or just carrying the burden, maybe we should take it as God's nudge to pray or to fast or to go to God with whatever that is. Because Nehemiah was not living in Jerusalem. He was tapped by God to do something about it, and he was not even a part of it. Are you being tapped? And I know that you might be going, yeah, but it's making me worry and it's making me upset and I just want God to fix it. Maybe he doesn't want you to fix, maybe he doesn't want to fix it. Maybe he wants to use you to participate in it. And there's no greater honor. There's no greater honor. There's no greater fulfillment than to know that the creator of the universe is using us to meet a need in this world. You're praying for purpose. And then when purpose comes, you're like, okay, go away, right? We're praying for purpose. And then when God taps us and says, here, you have a purpose. You're on this earth, and I need you to do something about this thing. Perhaps the burden that we carry, it's the blueprint that God is handing you for change. Don't curse the burden. Don't push it away. Ask God, Lord, what are you pointing me towards? If the thing that burdens us, we feel like it's bad, maybe it's God co-laboring with us on this earth, and we are called to either stand in the gap or to do something about it. God doesn't need us. Oh, but he loves us and desires to use our lives and to partner with us. We are co-laborers in Christ. Construction begins with a burden. So if you have one, it's not a bad thing. Don't ask God to take away your burden. Don't say, God, I'm underneath this burden. This isn't fair. Say, God, if you gave me this burden, then you're wanting me to do something with it. Even if I'm the only one praying on this earth. Do you know that scripture tells us that whatsoever we bind on earth is bound in heaven? Whatsoever we loose on earth is loosed in heaven? Do you know that? Do you know that we on earth pray prayers because God desires those prayers to be prayed so that things can be loosed, so things can be bound. So bad things can be bound, and so the angels can be loosed, so people can be loosed. And I want you to see that we have the opportunity to work with God. Construction continues with prayer. That's exactly what he did. This is what he said. Nehemiah said in Nehemiah 1, he said, let your ear be attentive to this prayer, God. Give your servant, he was talking about himself, success today by granting me favor in the presence of my king that I serve. Nehemiah, before he rebuilt the walls, he stopped and he approached the king. But before he approached the king and asking him for permission, he had to put his posture before God. He had to change his positioning, and he had to say, okay, God, I'm praying because I need you to do a work that I can't do. For many of you, you're in a place where either A, you don't have control over something, you can't do anything about it, it's frustrating you, and you are throwing your hands up at God. Instead of throwing your hands up at God like this, how about you throw your hands up like God like this? Because God knows exactly what he's doing, and he is on the throne, guys. And what he's expecting for us to do is stop fighting him and to realize that we should be praying to him, that we should be trusting him, that he is the only one that can control the things that we are wanting to be fixed. And so we go to him. Prayer that positions you and prayer that prepares you, that's prayer. That's good prayer. That's connecting with God. He always prepares us, right, for what we're praying for. He prayed for favor so that God would use him. And here's what's cool. He didn't run to God in prayer saying, God, fix the problem. He ran to God in prayer saying, Lord, if there's a problem, and there is, then use me to fix it. What in your life is God saying to you, God, use me to fix that? Now listen, I don't want you to get burdened. I received an email the other day that said, how am I supposed to go on with my life and build a life when people are dying in the streets and when there's so much chaos in the world? That's nothing but the enemy. And I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. That's nothing but the enemy making you feel like you're supposed to change the entire world. That's nothing more than the spirit of the enemy coming on you, trying to get you overwhelmed, feeling like everything's pointless. You have no control. God's not in control. And this world is falling apart. And how do I live? What do I do? That's the enemy. Because all you have and all I have to do is to focus on the wall out in front of our own house. To live peacefully, right? To do our best to participate in our little corner of the world and to bring Jesus as the light of the world into the darkness in our corner. And to do that which he's called us to do. Not everything, not the whole wall, but the wall in front of your own house. He said, if there's a problem, and there is, use me to fix it. I love that. He didn't go to the Lord and say, Lord, take this burden away. He said, Lord, let this burden become my purpose. Let this burden become my purpose. Some of you have been praying for purpose, and now all of a sudden you're burdened by something. God will put the tools in your hand before he fills your even before he gives you vision, really, right? He's going to put the tools in your hand, but he's going to give you that burden. He's going to ask you to pray, and then we're going to go on to God's favor next, okay? But I want you to understand this. He's going to give you everything that you need. Before you pick up a tool, please pick up prayer. Prayer won't always make the work easier, but it will make you stronger so that you can do the work that God's called you to do. Let's keep going. Construction requires God's favor. Nehemiah 2:8 says, because the gracious hand of my God was upon me. Nehemiah didn't rebuild the walls because he was skilled. He did it because God's hand was on it. And as I was putting together this message and I came to that portion and I was like, God, if we don't have you, we can't rebuild our lives. And I said, Lord, I don't want to preach a message that's going to cause our people to walk away and just feel burdened with, I have so much to do. And you know what God spoke to me? He said, this isn't a self-help project. This is a God-helped project. I want to help them. I want to be there with them. I want to guide them and support them. I want to open doors for them. I want to close doors that shouldn't be open. I want to bring them what they need. So I want to encourage you that if you've got in front of you a mess of a life, a mess of a family, a mess of finances, your body, whatever that looks like, when you're rebuilding your life or your habits or your heart, your confidence, your boundaries, whatever that is, you're not rebuilding by yourself. You're doing it by the gracious hand of God, just like Nehemiah was. God's favor opens doors. His strength comes upon you when you're feeling empty. His favor changes what you cannot change alone. If you're feeling exhausted, it's because you're doing it in your own strength. And this whole thing is about getting you to trust the God who is with you and goes before you and is your strength and is your source for all things. His favor connects you to the right people, cuts off the wrong ones. Can I just tell you? Oh, Lord, he sure does. I can't tell you how many wrong people I have prayed out of my own children's lives. Lord, that's not their spouse. Get them out of here. Favor connects us with the right people, cuts off the wrong ones, and pushes us forward before the enemy tries to pull you back. God's favor is there. This is not a self-help project. This is a God-helped project. This is the difference is that favor changes. Instead of quitting, you continue. Instead of collapsing, you conquer something. Instead of falling apart, you're going to finish strong. You are, but you got to do it with him. And you can't get overwhelmed because you're only doing what's in front of your own house. When God calls you to rebuild, he puts his hand on your life, and that hand is enough. If it's God's will, it's God's bill. Can I tell you how many times I have to repeat that to myself? That if God called me to this, then he is going to make a way. I got a text the other day from someone that says, "Hey, you making your bag on TikTok?" I'm like, I would love to know where that bag is. No, I'm not. I don't get paid for this. I get paid for any of the gifts that you put up, which I'm very thankful for, but TikTok takes 50% of it. I might make $12 every now and again. Can I just tell you on a night, that's a good night. Can I tell you something? This is ministry. And there are days that I'm so tired that I just look to God and I say, God, if you called me to this, then you got to give me strength. God, when I lose my focus, when I feel like it's not worth it, when I go to hit live and I feel like, you know what, this doesn't matter. There's a lot of voices on the internet. They don't need me. The Lord comes and he reminds me that this is my will and it'll be my bill. I'll give you everything you need. I'll give you the strength. I'll give you the focus. I'll give you the word. I'll give you the community. I'll give you people to come alongside of you to help you. I'll give you the Shanikas and the Mary of the world that will help. I'll give you the commentators that will help. Where are you right now? What has God called you to that you feel so overwhelmed? And God wants you to know tonight, if it is my will, it is my bill. I will take care of it. And I don't mean just financially. I mean, what is it that feels so big to you? Like you can't handle what's ahead of you. God says, I will make a way where there seems to be no way. If it is my will and I've called you to it, I'm going to see you through it. Somebody needs to receive that tonight. You are not alone. You are not alone. And when you feel overwhelmed, look to God. He'll remind you that he's there, that he called you to this, and he's going to see you through this. Construction requires vision. And some of you are going, okay, but that's the problem. I don't have a vision. I don't have a vision for my life. I get that. My husband died 4 years ago, and I can only tell you that in the last 26 months is when I've begun getting a true vision for this part of my life, this second half of my life. Before that, I didn't have a vision. And when you have no vision for your future, you always return to your past. When you have no vision for your future, according to the book of Proverbs, when you have no vision for your future, not only do you return to your past, but you run amok in life. You kind of just wander aimlessly. You feel like you have no purpose, no direction. Because remember, if you're going to go on a trip, you got to know where you're going. And if you don't know where you're going and you don't know where you are, which are the two things you're supposed to put into a GPS, right? Where you are and where you're going, then you're pretty much going to feel lost. So if you're sitting here tonight and you go, but I don't have a vision. I don't know what I'm building. I don't know what God wants me to do. Then I want to encourage you. You're exactly where Nehemiah was. Remember, he didn't start with a vision. He started with a burden. He started with a feeling. He started with a stirring. He started with that sense of something has to change. What is it in your life that has been tapping you on the shoulder saying something's got to change? Something's got to change. Vision doesn't always show up as a picture. Sometimes it shows up as discomfort. Sometimes it shows up as restlessness. Sometimes it shows up with that feeling of, I can't live like this anymore. So if you're on here tonight and you're going, I can't live like this anymore, what do? Keep listening. Because God's calling you to something. You are going to see something that needs to change. And then God's going to show you what to do. He's going to give you the tools. He's going to be with you in the process. Here's the good news. You don't have to have a full vision to start rebuilding. You just need the courage to start cleaning up one area. Vision grows as you rebuild. You don't know what your future looks like? That's okay. Start with a crack in the wall. Where is it worst? Where is that crack worst in the wall? What area is causing the most pain in your life? What place in your life feels so unstable that you know something's got to give? What is the one thing that keeps you circling back to prayer? That's where you start. Ask God for it. He'll show you what matters. He'll highlight what's needed to be rebuilt. He'll put his finger on that part of the wall that needs your attention. And then he'll reveal to you the future that you don't even know to ask for. I promise. Nehemiah 2:17 says this, come, let us build so that we will no longer be in disgrace. Do you know what disgrace means? It means without grace. Some of you feel disgraced in life. You feel like you did something or somebody did something and you were disgraced. Disgraced meaning that God's grace wasn't with you somehow through it. And I want you to know that God is in the ruins with us, but he doesn't want us to stay there. Nehemiah wasn't just fixing a wall. He was rebuilding his identity, his dignity, the safety, the order, and the peace that the people so longed for. And the same is true for you. You're not just rebuilding your finances. You are rebuilding how to manage your life and how to be blessed. Because when you tell your money where to go instead of you letting your money tell you where to go, there's so much peace in that. It means that you don't have it means that you don't have money in the bank, but you're still not paying your bills because you're afraid to get rid of it. Because that is serious anxiety. Whether you pay it or you don't pay it, you're in anxiety. And God says, listen, we're not just going to have you rebuild your finances. I want to teach you how to manage your life, how to live with freedom, how to have the things that you want, because you're disciplined today so that you could live tomorrow, right? We're not just rebuilding our confidence. We're rebuilding the way we see ourselves so that we would know that we are worthy of good things, that we don't have to keep laying down for people who don't love us and cherish us, that we don't have to keep being walked over and beat up and walked away from and treated like we have no worth. Because listen, if I believe that I have no worth, I'm giving myself away for free. I did that at a time in my life. After my dad died of cancer. My dad died of cancer and I went looking for love in all the wrong places. I didn't know my worth. I didn't know my value. And I asked everybody for it. And I believed them. And when they would walk out on me, it's like, okay, I guess that means that's what I'm worth. I guess I'm not worthy sticking around for. When we don't know how to see ourselves the way God sees ourselves, we will take whatever comes down the pike. We'll allow it. We'll take whatever. And then we end up getting stuck and trapped and frustrated and asking questions like, God, where are you? Well, God didn't tell you to go there. Some of us are asking God to finish something that he never asked us to start. For some of us, we're asking God to complete something that he never asked us to put on our plate. And so now what he's trying to do is say, listen, I want to help you. I want to help you to know your worth and your value and have a vision so that you're not just loading your plate with stuff, but instead you're putting stuff on your plate and you're having a focus so that you know that this life that I've given you, walk it with me. Walk out the plan that I have for your life. That's where your joy and your fulfillment will come from. You're not just setting new habits, you're structuring your life so that it supports peace. All day long, I said no to things because of my fast. And you would think that saying no all day long would make me feel bound. I feel more free now because I am not bound by what my flesh is telling me to do. I am not bound by my mind and my emotions telling me, you know what, escape that thought. Go into the kitchen and just grab something. Like, I said no all day long. And yet at the same time, I feel like there's a big fat yes that's been just stamped on me. Why? Because I'm making a choice, and you are too. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. I promise you. You're rebuilding trust in God. You're rebuilding your sense of stability. You're rebuilding your future that for some of you, your kids can depend on. Vision is what lets you see beyond the mess in front of you. And it helps you to recognize the life that could be out there, that is out there for you, and that could be yours. Vision doesn't ignore the mess. It just gives you a reason to start cleaning it up. You should see my room. And part of the fast is looking around my life and going, Lord, this isn't just about taking something out of my diet or out of my life. This is, what do I put in it? Some of you are fasting right now and you're pushing away the plate, or you're getting something out of your life or out of your diet. Please remember something. Fasting is not just about what you push away. It's also what you put in its place. So if I'm going to push away a plate and not eat lunch, it's important that I take the time that I would be eating lunch and I actually feed myself spiritually in the Word, or with a walk, with a sermon as I walk around the block, or just spending that time instead feeding on this instead of feeding on my lunch, right? So it's not just what you take out. So for me, it's what I'm putting back in my life right now is order and structure, because I've let a lot of things just go. I've let a lot of things go. And as a result, I don't feel the freedom that I need and I want. And so God's helping me put those things in order, and He's going to help you too. Construction requires counting the cost. Luke 14:28 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Yeah, that would be a good idea. The minute that I just said that, I thought of, because I live in Florida, I thought of this one building in Orlando. And if you know anything about Florida, or you've been around Disney, or you've driven I-4 in the last 10 years, 15 years, there was this massive building, this beautiful building on the side of I-4 that had been started and never finished for like almost a decade, I think. I'd have to look it up, but it just came into my mind. And every time we would pass it, it's like, still not done. There was nothing, no progress to it at all. It got started. It was beautiful. Somebody obviously had the funding, and then I don't know what happened, but all construction stopped, and it stayed that way for years. And that's sometimes what happens, is we don't count the cost. We think that it's not going to cost us anything. And I want to encourage you, if you've begun something and it's costing you something, you're on the right track. Because we have to sit down and think and weigh it out and say, God, show me what this is going to require. Lord, help me to understand that if I want change, I can't keep the same schedule. That if I want something new, I can't keep the same habits. That I can't just come along and expect things not to change and then yet have it change. Identify your resources. Are there books? Is there therapy? Are there classes? Is there budgeting help? Is there accountability? Are there materials out there that you're going to need for your wall? Because we live in a world, there is umpteen resources for us at all times. So I want to just encourage you to make peace with the fact that it's going to cost you something. Somebody came on the other night and says, while we were doing the altar call for salvation, and said, well, what if I'm addicted? What if I'm bound by an addiction? And I said, perfect. You don't have to clean up before you come to God. You come to God so that you can clean up, because He's the one that does it for us. But as we were talking, we said, listen, your first stop is to say yes to Jesus. Your next stop is to understand that you've got the surrender part. You've got the see it part. This is a problem. You got the say it part. Hey, I've got a problem, because they put in the comment section, here's my issue. And then I said, now you got to own it. And the own it part means that you decide that no matter how long it takes, you're not going to stay bound. You're going to do whatever it takes for however long it takes, because you didn't get here overnight and you ain't getting out overnight. But when we own it, that's what it is. We're counting the costs, and we're saying, I'm going to own whatever this means. Whatever accountability I have to take, whatever support group I need to join, whatever person I need to tell so that they can help me, so that they could come alongside of me, so that I'm not alone in this. Whatever it takes is what I want you to say. Whatever it takes. This wall's been built, this wall's been broken down a long time. Whatever it takes, it didn't get broken down overnight. It's not getting fixed overnight. But what if it only takes you 52 days? What if it only takes you 52 days? Would it be worth it to put your head down, to sacrifice, and to say, God, this matters, and I know that you're with me, and I'm not going to look back. Construction requires community. Operative portion in their unity. Nehemiah told everybody, we're all coming together. We're all going to build this wall. Nehemiah didn't rebuild it by himself. He couldn't. That was impossible. The same is true for you. You cannot rebuild as a solo project. It takes support. It takes community. And for many of you, you're not in community because it's easier to be isolated. And for that, I get that big time. This whole community exists because I hit live one night because I was struggling. I was isolating. I had spent years isolating and pulling away from people and trying to heal. And it was a false sense of healing because I was just not being triggered because I wasn't around people. Because when you're hurting and you're walking wounded, it's easier to just pull away from everybody, because when you're walking wounded, people are going to bump into you, people are going to hurt you, and it's easier just to isolate. The problem is we don't heal in isolation. We heal in community. We need to at least engage enough to where people are in our lives and they want us to win and they're encouraging us. They remind us of who we are when we can't remember. They won't let you quit. They're going to speak truth over you when you're slipping. They're going to stand guard when you're tired. We heal faster when we're supported. We grow stronger when we're surrounded by people. We make better decisions when we have people holding us accountable to the version of us that God wants to rebuild. Some of you are exhausted. You're weak. You're isolated. At least that's how you feel. And that's the thing, is you're feeling weak and you're feeling exhausted because you're isolated. But you're not alone because God is with you and he wants you to lean in. Nehemiah had a team. We need a team. Your breakthrough may be waiting. It may be waiting for people that you've not let into your life just yet. Healing doesn't happen in hiding. Growth doesn't happen in isolation. Strength is not built alone. Isolation is what breaks our walls, and support is what builds them back up. Anytime we begin building something meaningful, we're going to discover we have enemies. Let's talk about a couple enemies before we go. This is what you're going to discover. You're going to discover that not everyone's going to like your progress. Not everybody's going to like your decisions. Not everybody's coming with you either. Remember, we always talk about the fact that we're just supposed to be driving our bus. And so we drive our bus, right? We get in and we drive our bus, and whichever direction it is that we're going, we're going to have friends, we're going to have family, we're going to have people that are on our bus with us, and it's awesome. And then all of a sudden they're going to want off. They're going to jump off. Some people are going to go with us a couple of stops in life and then jump off. Some people are going to get on and they're going to go half the way with us and then they're going to jump off. Some people may go the whole distance with us, but that's very, very rare. And so we are going to lose people, and we are going to realize that if we're building something and if we're elevating and if we're making changes, not everyone's going with us. Not everyone's coming to Jesus because you did. Not everybody is going to love what you're doing. Not everybody is going to love it. And here's why. Because that person that you go to the pizza joint with at lunch, at work, when you decide you're no longer eating pizza, they're going to be mad at you. And not only is it going to be hard for you to make the decision, but once you do, then they're going to be mad at you. Why? Because you're interrupting their life and their flow, right? And I don't mean just pizza. I'm talking about with everything in life. When you begin to put some boundaries up, when you begin to say no to things, when you begin to say yes to some things, not everybody's going to like it. And so this is what I want to share with you. When we're looking at Nehemiah, here's a couple things that happened. He had some opponents. He had some opponents that kept coming against him. First of all, there was one, Sanballat, and there was Tobiah. These guys were basically the Jewish officials of the day. They were the local officials of the day, I should say. who felt threatened by the rebuilding. And so they mocked the Jews. They tried to intimidate them. They did everything that they could to discourage the work. They even tried to lure Nehemiah away from the wall to harm him and to stop the work. Then we look at Shemaiah. He was basically a so-called prophet, if you will, inside the community. He tried to manipulate Nehemiah into hiding in the temple. That sounds really spiritual, but it wasn't. He was pretending that it was for Nehemiah's safety, but it was really to discredit him, to frighten him, and to trap him. So in short, Nehemiah basically faced opposition from external and also internal. So let's talk about that real quickly. Obstructionist, what tries to stop you? Mocking and minimizing. Nehemiah 4 talks about Sanballat mocked, and Tobiah said, even a fox could knock this thing down. Some of you are shrinking. As you're trying to grow, you're feeling that shrinking feeling because people are saying to you, you can't keep that up. You're not spiritual enough. Or do you realize that you were just getting high last week? They're literally looking at you going, how is it that, oh, you're a Jesus follower now? You can't keep that up. Or you've tried that before. Or that's not who you really are. Or just give it time. You're going to fall back out just like you did with everything else. Or you're not actually serious about this, are you? They're going to mock you. They're going to minimize. The enemy always mocks what threatens him. And so I want somebody to take a hold of this, because you're being mocked and intimidated and minimized by somebody who doesn't like where you're going, doesn't like this new direction. They don't like the new you that is beginning to be. Why? Because maybe they're intimidated about who you're becoming, and that means that it puts pressure on them to do the same or to have to do the same. Maybe it is that the spirit of the living God inside of you is irritating the spirit of the enemy that they're operating under. Maybe it's that as you rise, it makes it uncomfortable for them, because then you're kind of a mirror for them to look at their own lives, and that's no fun. I want to encourage you that obstructionists are everywhere. Fear and intimidation. Nehemiah 4:10-12 says that the people said out of their own mouths, our strength is failing, there's too much rubble, they're coming to attack us. Notice that the enemy didn't even swing a sword at this point, but the fear did the damage for him. Many of you are not under attack. You're under the anticipation of attack. You are stopping yourself because you are literally creating these scenarios in your mind. You're in fear. You're intimidated. You're intimidated about your future. You're afraid of either success or failure. Listen, for me, I don't fear failure. I fear success, because I have been there before, and I know what it takes. Do you know that the sophomore album for most artists never happens? The one-hit wonders of the world? That sophomore album is their hardest to make. Why? Because the first time they made it, they were completely naive to how much work it would be and how much it would cost them. Now, all of a sudden, they're going into their sophomore album, and now they have the pressure because now they know what it's going to take. Now they know the pain. Now they know that it's an arduous task. The fact of the matter is when we're naive, it's awesome. But when we know better, here comes the fear. And so for me, I fear the success, because if I elevate or if I go somewhere new, who's going with me? Who's not going with me? What am I going to leave behind? And so sometimes I have a tendency to step back and to become smaller, because sometimes feeling like I can step into something that may be bigger than me, then I wonder, can I sustain that? Can I keep it going? Will I lose myself? Will I lose friends? Will I lose? And that is the enemy. That is fear. That is intimidation. And so I don't know who needed that today. That's not actually in my notes. Somebody needs that today. That you know what God's calling you to, but you're afraid to step out. You're afraid to make changes because you don't know what it's going to look like for your family. You don't know what it's going to look like for your social life. And so I just want to encourage you that if God's called you to it, he's going to see you through it. He doesn't bring up what he doesn't want to bring out. He doesn't tap on your shoulder and ask you to do something that's going to cause you harm. We've got to trust the God who loves us more than we love ourselves, more than we even love the things that we're afraid to lose. Okay? Sometimes the loudest enemy is the one in your own head. How many of you, your greatest enemy is in your own head? Your greatest enemy is in your own head. Another obstruction is distraction. Distraction doesn't always look like sin. In Nehemiah 6, Sanballat came and said to Nehemiah as he's up on the wall, he said, hey, why don't you come down? Let's have a meeting. Let's have a business meeting. Let's have a meeting. Do you know he said that 5 times? 5 times he said, come down and meet with me. And Nehemiah responded back, and I think this is probably the best line in all of Nehemiah, is when he says, no, I'm doing a great work. I can't come down. Distraction isn't always sin, guys. Sometimes it looks like busyness. Sometimes it looks like drama. Sometimes it looks like things that look like God things, but they're not God things. They may be good things, but they're not God things. There's a very big difference there. Sometimes it's emotional detours. Sometimes it's relationships that drain you. Sometimes it's urgent things that are really not important. Some of you stop what you're doing, or you stop your growth and progress for these little things, and they're not worth your time. I'm thinking of my son as he was growing up. Now he's got an amazing wife, and they're expecting my first grandbaby in March. But prior to him meeting Gavin, which is his wife, that boy could get distracted so quickly by just something just walking by. And no matter where he was, it was like there was always, his daddy used to say this, boy, every time you put your head down to focus on your sport, every time you put your head down to elevate in your studies, every time you put your head down to do something that God wants you to do, here comes another girl. Every time. He said, do you not notice this pattern? That every time there's something that you commit to, there's something else that comes by to distract you. And it's this nice little shiny object that causes you to go, oh, let's go over there instead. He said, son, every time, and I need you to see the pattern. For some of you, you need to see this pattern, that every time you start going forward, there's some type of distraction. There's some type of something that happens in your family. There's somebody that gets their panties in a wad. There's somebody. You say it too. So I can say it here. Guys, think about that. Think about how many times somebody just gets so mad at you or so upset or starts drama or starts pitching a fit or whatever. And all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, that's a pattern. That every time I start moving in a direction, someone starts something or something happens or somebody comes along to bring me somewhere else. So remember, distraction doesn't always look like sin. Sometimes it looks like busyness or drama or somebody having a hissy fit about something, and you got to go attend to it because it's urgent. No, you don't. Let them handle their own stuff. Let them handle their own stuff. Let them have their own emotions and let them handle their own emotions. Let them handle their own catastrophes and their own urgencies, because the enemy is trying to get you to come down from your wall. The enemy is trying to sidetrack you with some emotional detour. And you cannot finish what God's called you to build if you keep coming down and fighting battles that were never yours to fight. I do it all the time. I see it now, though. And so I have to practice going, no, I'm not going to answer that. No, I'm not going to do that. Nope, I'm not going to handle that. That's not mine to handle. Or, wow, I just started writing the sermon and the Spirit of the Lord is working and flowing through me, and I just got this coming, and now all of a sudden my phone rings with somebody who's got something to deal with, and everything inside of me goes, I need to deal with that. And God says, no, you don't. No, you don't. You stay where you are right now because you're with me. And so I just want to encourage you. What is it that distracts you from your purpose? False accusations. Nehemiah 6. Sanballat sent an open letter claiming that Nehemiah wanted power, and he was basically spreading false rumors. Because lies can stop people faster than swords. And so who's been lying on you? The enemy will whisper accusations like, you're just being selfish. You're just being selfish. You're not taking care of me anymore. You're taking care of yourself, but you're just being selfish. The enemy will come along and say, you've changed. He'll send someone into your life to say to you, you know, you've changed. Yeah, well, we're supposed to. That's your answer. You're doing too much, or you're not doing enough. Those are all lies from the enemy. Or you're not qualified to do that. Or you're just pretending, you're faking it. This is just one of your phases. That's what I was told by my own family. Oh, this is a phase. This is one of Jen's phases. I married my husband, strangers to married in 8 weeks. You know what they said? Oh gosh, this is another phase. Poor guy. They said, poor guy. This is just another one of Jen's phases. Thankfully, 25 years later, we were still going strong until death took him. But the devil can't stop your calling, so he'll attack your character. He'll come to you with all of these little whispering accusations, and you've got to recognize them and not let them keep you from doing what you're supposed to do. Yes, you're a good mother. You taking care of you does not make you a mother who's not taking care of her babies and her family. I don't know who that's for, but somebody needs to hear that just because you're taking care of you does not mean you're selfish, and it doesn't mean you're not taking care of others, and it doesn't mean you're not showing up, and it doesn't mean you're bad, and it doesn't mean you deserve judgment. It means that God's calling you to take care of yourself, to pour into yourself so that you can keep pouring into others, or so that you can just understand what it is to be loved and to be cared for, because it's been a long time. I don't know who that's for. Obstruction tries to slow you down, and destruction tries to stop you completely. Here's the last two. Destruction. What tries to tear you down that you're building? Nehemiah 4 talks about rage and opposition. When the walls started going up, Nehemiah's enemies got angry. They weren't angry before. They were angry when the walls started going up, when progress started. Please watch for that. Watch for it, that as soon as you start making progress in your reading the Bible, or you're growing in faith, or you're coming together to do a Bible study with the ladies, or you're making some type of commitment, that is when the enemy starts stirring things up. Why? Because he waits. He doesn't care about you talking about it. He cares when you get started making progress. That's how the enemy works, right? When you start changing, when you start healing, when you start creating boundaries, when you start choosing peace, that's when the noise and the resistance shows up. Watch for it. Watch for it. And if you think that just, oh, well, if that's coming, then I just won't bother. Well, then you stay stuck. So yes, it's hard, but it's also hard to stay stuck. So choose your hard. Yes, it's hard to push through that, but it's even harder to stay stuck. Choose your hard, right? We talk about it all the time. Division and internal collapse. Nehemiah 5 is talking about the fact that sometimes destruction isn't coming from strangers or haters. Sometimes it's coming from the people closest to you, the people who should be cheering you on. And sometimes it's not them, it's your own discouragement, your own thoughts, your own emotional battles. Division, whether it's in relationships or inside of your own soul, breaks down your progress quicker than anything. The enemy loves to divide. He loves to divide homes and marriages and friendships and churches and your own mind against itself. Division is a favorite demolition tool of the enemy. Watch for division. It's the enemy. Don't get distracted by it. Don't stop what God's called you to do. Don't come off of what it is that you have been assigned to go handle putting something together that the enemy is just dividing to keep you away from your project, away from you, away from God, away from being who God's called you to be. Threats destroy builders. Nehemiah 4 said that the enemy said, we will kill them and stop their work. In our world, it means that we get torn down, we get overwhelmed, we get hit with grief, we start going back to old habits, we feel like quitting altogether. And I want you to know that is not random. It is meant to stop your rebuild. If the enemy can't distract you, he'll try to discourage you. If the enemy can't distract you, he'll try to exhaust you so that you'll stop building. They prepared by praying, by putting up posting guards and stationing people and reminding each other of their why. Some of you need to remember your why. You need to remember your why, because you can't go back and undo what's been done. You can't go back and get your person back if they're no longer on this earth or that relationship is severed. We can't go back and redo, but we can move forward in what God has us to do now. If this is my reality, then what am I going to do with it? For some of you, you need to hear that, and you need to say that to yourself. If this is my reality, then what now? If I can't change it, and this is what I've got, do you know how many times I've had to say that to myself? And it's what I land on every time. God, if this is it, I know that I've told you a million times, this is not the life I wanted. It's not the life I asked for. It's not the life I thought I was going to get. But if this is my reality, now what? If this is going to be how it is, then I get to choose. Do I stay stuck in bitterness and anger and hurt and pain? Or do I do the hard work of healing and getting up and moving forward and saying, God, I know that you know, and I don't know why, I don't know how I'm going to move forward, but I do know this. I do know that if I just begin with one block at a time, that you're going to help me rebuild something beautiful. It's not going to be the same, but it'll be beautiful. They stayed close to the trumpet, close to God. That trumpet was what they sounded if there was danger. They stayed dressed for battle at all times, and they refused to come down from the wall. And then here's what's really cool too. They worked with a weapon. Nehemiah 4:17 and 18 says this: those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. A hammer in one hand, a sword in the other. They were building and defending at the same time. Listen to me. There will be extremely hard seasons where you are both building and battling at the same time. And you are going to be asking God, where are you? And he's going to say, I'm right here with you. Keep going. I got you. You're going to be building and battling at the same time. Many of you know my story of 9 years into our marriage that my husband came forward and said that he had and I have to say it this way, a corn addiction, okay? An addiction to corn, okay? Not the vegetable. And when he stepped forward and he admitted that, and my life fell apart and our marriage fell apart and we had to begin rebuilding, during that time, my husband had to take a sabbatical and had to get deliverance and had to get free and had to get counseling and had to get the help that he needed. During that time, when he took the sabbatical because he had to be restored, I had to keep going. We had engagements, speaking engagements all over the country that could not be canceled because we were not going to put churches in their situation. They built conferences around us being the speaker or whatever. So we showed up. And if we didn't preach, we didn't eat. Literally. If we didn't preach, we didn't eat. That was our source of income. That was the way God provided for us, is that we did ministry and God provided. So while he was home healing, I was broken, traveling the country alone with a broken heart and having to get alone with God and bring messages to congregations where I just wanted to cry, where I just wanted to break. And I can tell you that that was a season of my life where I was both building and I was both battling at the same time. My ministry completely flourished in the biggest way at that time. God's hand was still on me. It was during that season that I preached at some of the largest churches in America, that I preached some of the greatest conferences that I had always had a dream of preaching. God had opened those doors. And it's not about a mega church. It's about the fact that I'm an evangelist. So my heart is after souls. And numbers are important because, well, there's even a book called Numbers. But behind every one of those numbers is somebody I can reach. And God opened massive doors for me while I was broken, while I was hurting, while I was battling. I was building the ministry and doors were opening and God was doing amazing things. And I was walking through every one of those doors with a broken heart going, God, I don't know why this is happening or how this is happening or how I'm even doing what I'm doing, but I know that you're with me. There are going to be seasons where you're going to be building and battling at the same time. It does not mean that God's not with you. It means that he's carrying you during those times. It means that he is working through you, because anything that's broken, that's when whatever's inside gets to seep out. I don't think that I have ever preached messages as powerful as the ones I preached during that season. Why? Because I was not depending on me. I was depending on God, because I couldn't even form a sentence most days. But I would step behind that pulpit and the anointing would hit me, and I would preach words that I didn't even know I was saying. And that was all God. He gave me strength, and he's going to give you strength. In closing, let me remind you of two things. Let me remind you of why we build, why we rebuild, why we start again, why we don't stay stuck, why we look to God to change our lives when we know something's not what it needs to be. This is why. Because Nehemiah 4:14 says this, don't be afraid, fight for your families. You are not rebuilding just for you. You are rebuilding for your children or your grandchildren or your future or your calling or your peace or your witness or your ministry or your legacy. You are rebuilding. Your wall is not just about you. It protects your whole house, and it protects what God is wanting to do in you and through you. Please remember why you're building. You're not selfish. It's not too much. Whatever lie the enemy is telling you, you are rebuilding. Fight for your family. Fight for what God has placed on the inside of you, because there will be a fulfillment. There will be a joy. There will be a peace. There will be a satisfaction that you've been looking for in life that perhaps you've never even had ever before, that you will find in those moments where you step into that place where all the hard work pays off, and you realize that you have placed God first, and he has built your life, and you're able to exist in it and keep the peace and keep the joy without it seeping out. The last thing is this, that finished wall will speak for you. Nehemiah 6:15 verse 16 says this, Nehemiah's wall was finished in 52 days, right? But in those verses, it said this work has been done with the help of our God, and everyone that saw it knew that it was God that did it. You don't rebuild a wall in 52 days. That was God. And I know that some of you are sitting here going, but you don't understand my life. It's in shambles. No. It's not going to take you forever to rebuild it. God is with you. He has gone before you. He is going to multiply the time, the effort, your energy. Faster than anyone expected, stronger than anyone imagined. It was undeniable. Everyone was watching, and God was working. Listen to me. Exactly what God is doing in your life is that right there. Your healing is going to speak for itself. Your consistency is going to speak for itself. Your peace is going to speak for itself. Your restored mind is going to speak for itself. Your restored and transformed life is going to speak for itself. You don't have to argue about it. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to defend your growth. You don't have to defend your boundaries. You don't have to defend your calling. You don't have to defend the process. You don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have to convince anyone that you've changed, because a rebuilt life will speak for itself. And it will speak louder than any words ever could. A healed mind is a testimony. A stable life is a testimony. A peaceful home is a testimony. A consistent walk with God is your testimony. The version of you that refuses to crumble, that's a testimony. Guys, my testimony, some of you look at me and go, you're so strong. Oh, you have no idea. You weren't there. You weren't there for the 10 hours that I got stuck on the floor of my husband's closet and couldn't get up. 10 hours. 10 hours. I couldn't move. I'm so strong? No, I was going with whatever was next. And many of you know exactly what that is. And I refused to crumble and stay there. I crumbled a lot, but I refused to stay there. And just like Nehemiah's enemies, people who doubted you, people who misjudged you, people who talked about you, people who walked away from you, the friends that you lost, the people who underestimated you, the things that everybody had to say, they're going to look and say, only God could have rebuilt you like that. There is no doubt in my mind that God has rebuilt my life and is rebuilding my life. And sometimes it scares me to death because I am so scared that this next portion will not be as good as the last. And It doesn't have to be. God keeps reminding me that it's not going to be the same. But if you trust me, it'll be good. When God rebuilds you, the results speak for themselves. And so, guys, I want you to know that as we go to prayer right now, about 15 years ago, I stood in an auditorium of about almost 10,000 people, and I did this leadership conference. And I put my arm through 4 concrete blocks. And if you don't believe me, the video's on my TikTok page. I just found it like recently. But I did that because my entire point of that message was you've got to break through in order to get the breakthrough. Like, it doesn't just happen. I was preaching or teaching to an entire leadership summit, a conference, and I knew there were things that were holding them back. And I knew they were called to great things because they were leaders in their corporations, in their business. But I wanted them to feel something real. I wanted it to be unforgettable. I wanted them to see that it's hard to break through. I put my elbow through 4 concrete blocks. Real concrete blocks. Thank you, Amy. And I named them. I named one of them fear. I named one of them doubt. What would you name them? Fear, doubt, your past, unforgiveness, negative influences in your life that you're afraid to cut out? Your self-reliance, is that what holds you back? Discouragement? Lack of boundaries? Do you know what discouragement is? Right when I read that, discouragement means without courage. If we're walking through life and we are completely discouraged all the time, it means that we're not focusing our eyes upon the one who gives us courage. Discouragement means discouraged, without courage. Jesus is our courage. Stay close to him and you won't succumb to discouragement. Stay close to him. He is your courage. He says, do it afraid. You don't have to wait for the fear to be gone. Do it afraid. I'll be with you. Is it lack of boundaries? Is it the same old pattern that you keep returning to? What is it? If you had those 4 blocks in front of you and you had to pile through them in order to have your breakthrough, what would those 4 things be? Do you know? Name them. Call them out. Identify what's been blocking your freedom and your healing and your growth and your peace. What's been holding you back? What's been keeping you stuck? And if it's fear, identify what fear that is. Is it fear of success, fear of failure, fear of losing your children, fear of change and sustaining that change? What is it? Pick one. After you name the 4, then pick one wall to work on, 1 block to break, 1 area to rebuild, 1 step to take, 1 thing to notice that holds you back. So that when you see it pop its head up, you can knock it down. Big change starts with 1 strong choice. Nehemiah rebuilt an entire city in 52 days. But they didn't start with the 10 gates or 10 walls or 10 miles of stone or the whole thing at one time. They started with the wall in front of their own home. Because once you break your first block, once you rebuild your first wall, once you prove to yourself that you can, then something shifts inside of you. And that shift is the beginning of a new life. Just like Nehemiah, when your wall is finished, people who doubted you won't be able to deny that God is real and what he's done in your life. Your finished wall is your testimony. Your rebuilt wall, your rebuilt life is your answer. What are the 4? Pick one. Start rebuilding. Your new life begins with 1 step towards that wall. Your new life begins when we say yes to God, who's tapping us, saying, you know there's more. You know I'm calling you to more. You know that thing can't stay with you. You know that you can't drag that addiction into your new world. You know that you cannot go into your future smelling like your past. You know that you cannot keep moving forward and having peace in your home and peace in your relationships while you're keeping that thing that's causing chaos. You can't keep them. Trust him. What is it that's holding you back? Because if God called you to it, he's going to see you through it. If it's God's will, it's God's bill, and he's got you. Let's pray. Father, tonight I thank you for your word. I thank you for your word. I thank you for your truth. I thank you, God, that you are the source of everything that we need. And what you're saying to us tonight is that the life that you've called us to, the thing that's out in front of us, that we're going to have to let go of what was. We're going to come out of the ruins and out of the rubble, and we're going to have the boldness to say yes to you and to start one brick at a time. Lord, wherever our lives are, whatever we're going through, whatever shambles our life is in, whatever rubble we're standing in, God, you're not finished with us yet. Your word says in Philippians 1:6 that you will carry on to completion that thing that you've begun in us. You will carry it on to completion. You are not done with us. You are not finished with us. It's not over. And no matter what we've lost, no matter what is no longer, God, you can restore our heart. You can redeem anything. You can bring hope to our future. Lord, for those who are struggling today because they feel like there's so much and too much to do, I pray that you would help them to focus and narrow their vision just to one place. Lord, where can they start? What are you calling them to? Where do you want to bring healing? What addiction do you want to break off of their life? What fear do you want to conquer? Lord, what relationship is not what it could be, but they've been too afraid to look at it, to roll up their sleeves with it? God, what ministry have you called somebody to that they are too afraid to step out in faith? What change of ministry? Where is it? Where is it, God, that you want us to roll up our sleeves and get to work? There will be opposition. There will be distraction. There will be those that don't like it. There will be pain. There will be work. There will be those that come to obstruct our vision. And there will be those who come to literally destruct what we're putting together. But you will be with us in all of it. And you are calling us. And you are growing us. And you are strengthening us. And you are giving us a vision for the future, so that we don't keep returning to our past, so that we don't keep wandering aimlessly through life, and so that we don't feel like our life is random and without purpose, without joy, without fulfillment. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for tapping us on the shoulder and saying, I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's go. Thank you, Lord, for your love, for your grace, for your help, for your strength when we are weak, everything we have need of. We love you, Lord, and we know you're not done with us. We know that you're not done with us.